Yeah, I think this is still new to Corbeau, myself, in the organization, this concept of using agentic AI to help in regards to operations,
Mhm.
particularly planning, decision support, and then, of course, the functional execution. I would say we're quite literally in our infancy. We've been using a limited and certainly governed version of agentic AI sort of behind the scenes because it's a new year, right? We have completed our strategic planning for the year. Corbeau has the Project Success Academy as one wing of our business. The other is, of course, the Corbeau Tech Project Management Consulting wing. Both of those have very robust standard operating procedures or runbooks. So what we've been doing in regards to design and decision making is engaging with AI almost in our planning conversations, if you will. It's almost like an attendee in our conversations. And we'll put forth ideas about, hey, this SOP used to work this way, like here, all oversimplify internal operations. Maybe it was paying our vendors, right? So validating the invoice from a vendor, then cutting the check to pay the vendor, and of course, all the paperwork and controls in between. The same person who submits the invoice can't be the same person who pays it, for example. And so I ran the entire runbook through some of our AI tools, and it would have recommendations for simplification because we're a small company, dozen or so folks, and it had some really good ideas. And then we moved to which of these are reasonably menial and low risk, and we actually had a complete leadership team session last week where very quickly, this was kind of cool. We had AI generate, instead of a PowerPoint presentation or supplemental PDFs for the conversation, we had a live local host, sort of a personal website created. And each of the buttons on that website were interactive. So we'd have a conversation about the payroll task, or we'd have a conversation about the training and onboarding SOP. And I could see the RACI, the responsible, accountable, consulted, informed parties, because it pulled it off from the runbook. And it had pre-assessed based on our planning conversations where the risk points were. Hey, you don't have someone assigned as an owner of this task, or if you guys change your approach, that's going to break this integration or this handoff in that process to the next process. And we were able to, it was red, yellow, green boxes of all our SOPs, and we'd click on it and it would drill down and it would show us what to discuss, what the RACI was, maybe design-wise, what we could alter or improve. And the crazy thing about this is I had it create that sort of presentation internal website 15 minutes before the actual meeting with our leaders. So certainly it wasn't perfect. You'd click on it and the menu would pop up, but maybe you couldn't scroll, right? Little usability errors, but it was incredible to have it almost as a partner in that meeting, providing a vehicle for us to click and see pop-up details that traditionally were spread across multiple systems, multiple documentation wikis and things like that, all in one place, and allowed us to have a very effective conversation. I share that to say, I think that's the biggest part about planning. I could see us using that extensively going forward, both internally and with our customers, and then eventually with our students as well in the academy side. Now, thanks for your patience in hearing me out with this long introduction.
Sure.
But I think where I'm getting with this is still so new from an agentic standpoint where, yes, I'm happy to have it do planning. Yes, I'm happy to have it troll, monitor, update existing, say, operational tickets. We are a ClickUp house, although we've used Jira, and I could see this being identical, but managing workflow, managing due dates, automated reporting and detection, participation advice on the tickets as they're being worked with our collaboration efforts among team members. That part I feel reasonably safe. It's very contained. We can use it or not use it. Where the agentic thing is neat, but a little frightening, and I still have human stop points 100% of the time. We've not moved to full agentic automation yet because I want to see the results of these experiments and these tests. So an example might be I have an agent that's scanning our ClickUp, and it'll do an automated report every Tuesday, Thursday for the leadership to watch the multiple sprints that are going on. of work behind the scenes. And it, just organizes the thoughts, looks at past dues, reads some key comments, and it's a very, very helpful thing. But what I don't want it doing is reassigning tickets to solve the problem yet. It's watching and it recommends things like, hey, so-and-so's calendar says they're out of the office. Do you want to reassign this ticket? Or the due date's coming. Is it the wrong priority? Do we just push the next sprint? Like, it can give recommendations, but I'm not allowing it yet without my yes, no, or alternative answer to take actions and modify those assignments, for example. And I could say the same for building deliverables. I could say the same for work product for our clients. I could say the same for building curriculum for the students. It'll go out and do the research. It'll go out and compile the material. It'll workshop it with the team members and the creators of the material. But I don't just let it automatically go out and publish stuff and send it to the customer, right? Because our livelihood, our paycheck, if you will, lives on that. So that was a lot. I know you were drinking from the fire hose when I shared that, but I wanted to kind of give the state of the union of where we are, and then we can talk a little bit about a little more about what that would mean in the future.
Okay. And thank you for that. You spoke a little bit about this, but I think we can probably talk a little bit more about it. How is this fundamentally different from what we were doing before, and what actually changes in the process? And I know you covered this a little bit, but I think you could probably go a little bit deeper on it as far as speaking, directly to the agentic AI.
So what is fundamentally different? And this is a mindset change for an old dog like me who's been in consulting for a long time. I used to be the master of researching Google queries. And what I would do is I would find sort of, if you will, the Lego bricks of how to build an answer for a customer, an employee, a team member, whatever it is. Now AI has evolved such that I can say, here's my problem, solve it. And what I mean by that is it knows better than I even did which articles to research or case studies to research, to look up policy, the highlights in the newspaper or the law, changes in the law and things like that. Now, I'm not saying that I trust it to be my lawyer and my doctor and my CEO, for example, but it certainly knows how to play that game so much better than I did. And I've been doing it for 25 years. Thought I was good at it. So it's become, I think what's changed is, and we need to change our mindsets, is use it as a sounding board or almost like a personal assistant, from the standpoint of it's opened up doors where before it was so laborious and I'd have to take extensive notes and I'd have to log my progress. And almost like in my brain, you see those tropes of PI movies or murder mysteries on movies and TVs, and they have this red string on the board with pictures and articles and things like that. That was kind of how my mind would operate digitally, using Google and internal document research and finding, scanning documents that I had and then kind of pasting it together. That was my consulting job. Now it's doing all that as well, and it really simplifies it. So then I come up more with postulates, forward thinking. Can you build me an article on that? Can you email the team and it'll draft things up? Again, I don't have the courage yet to say, send an email to Amanda and tell her to do XYZ. I'm not there yet. We will probably get there for rudimentary tasks. We're almost there, maybe Q1, into Q1. But I'm still testing the emails that it's drafting. Important things to me, like tone of voice, right? It's got to be friendly, not mechanical or robotic, but not overly friendly. It can't be filled with fluff. It has to be effective and a good use of the recipient's time. Something that's important to us too is the ethics. We're working with partners on just ethical awareness of, I may think it's innocent to, read international privacy policy and then act in that interest, but maybe there are nuances socially where there's layers I haven't thought of. And so there's still kind of the human element. Yes, it's legal for you to, quote, spam me in the United States versus GDPR in Europe. That doesn't mean I'm just going to go do it, right? I may choose to behave more as back in the old days when I was growing up, right? We used to have a rule with landlines as a little kid. And don't call grandma after 9 p.m. Quiet time. You don't call people before 8 a.m. unless it's an emergency, right? There was a social courtesy. I still think that exists and still needs to exist. And AI certainly would have to be trained out and understand that. So I don't know if that answered your question, but it's a very, very different way of thinking, not just a different way of working, because yes, you've got this best friend, study buddy, kind of on your shoulder, metaphorically speaking. But we're not quite to a place where I can say, go be Ben and call grandma, because he'll call her after 9 p.m.
Right. And it does answer the question, and it brings us into the next question too, is where does that accountability live? And then what are the risks of the accountability?
Oh, I'm 100% behind this, and I don't see it changing. And I'm going to butcher this, but it's almost like the philosophical, trolley problem, right? You're on a trolley and you have the lever. You can either change it to track A or track B, and the brakes aren't working. The trolley's careening out of control, and track B could hit, 5 adults, but track A, if you stay on it, might hit a small child. And you have to, in context, be responsible for the decision you make, particularly when it's unpleasant. We have to plan around the unpleasant decisions. And that's why I think just automating AI, if I am the sponsor of that automation, right? And I really, for Corbeau, that stops at the CEO. And I'm honored and feel totally fine taking responsibility for that, because we're tiptoeing into this, onto the sheet of ice, metaphorically speaking. Everything that AI does, Corbeau is responsible for, and then subsequently me. And I actually agree with that. So even if it's inadvertent, that's no different if one of our employees sent out an email that angered a customer. Well, I'd have to do recovery and all of that. We treat that agent that same way. We're responsible for the decisions that it either was automatically empowered to make or that we approved and it went out the door. And I feel that's universally true. So I'll give you an example. And I think this sort of philosophical story has been told already, so I'm going to butcher it. But if I'm in an automatic drive car and it's driving down the street, same as the trolley, and it has to choose between driving on the sidewalk to save a child and possibly hitting a vendor or another pedestrian, but I'm asleep in the car because it's on auto drive, I'm still responsible as the driver. I am. I'm the one that enabled the bot, I'm the one that for whom the journey was intended in the first place. And so getting into that situation always needs to tie back to a human. If, in my opinion, we stray away from that, and I'm not big on litigation culture at all. That's not what I mean. It's just, it absolves us of critical thinking, and really just taking a second to think about, if I do A, will B happen or will C happen? And I think as humans, the minute we let go of that and everything's totally automated, I think we've missed the point of the value of agentic AI or all AI, right? I think instead AI needs to remain an augmenter, an accelerator, like automobiles were, right? We moved from horse and carriage. Like, I think we literally need to be a driver that AI exists to accommodate us self-actuating and being better leaders, humans, parents, employees, etc. But we don't just absolve ourselves of that. So we need to be responsible for, to use the metaphor, where we steer the wheel at all times, no matter how smart, no matter how autonomous these agents get.
That is wonderful. And that brings us exactly to the next question, which is similar. But how do leaders redesign processes without losing the visibility, trust, or strategic control?
Yeah, in fact, so this part we've done, our strategic planning for the season for 2026 was a big success. And both AI as sort of a knowledge base and research buddy was helpful, but we really did do agentic. And what I mean by that is we would have it troll past meeting notes. We would have it troll and research transcripts, load transcripts from our meetings automatically. So we could work asynchronously or in separate teams and then bring them together. We could look at implications for just the academy. We could look for the implications for just consulting or together. I could apply private financial information using AI agentic automations and protect privacy. Not everyone needs to see the books, right? So that was actually quite a success. And then I could use it almost as a personal associate. We would jokingly call that role a gopher. Oh, that reminds me, go check the finance. So what are the risks? Are there any policy changes or things we need to consider? What about the research that we did in Perplexity, for example, about market trends and where we want to focus for our students in the academy side? I could bring all that together in piece or in whole, depending on what I wanted to do. And from that, generate next artifacts, namely being, operational documentation updates or wiki updates, learning material so that we can onboard, have orientation, alignment, challenge sessions, and then we'd iterate. So it's great that it's able to create, look at calendars if I wanted to look at alignment for the next session. We can look at creating artifacts that are consumable by the humans for the next session, and we continue that progression. And it's just along with us for the journey. But again, those are gopher tasks. It is not yet acting as like a chief of staff agent, where it's like, hey, Mr. CEO, I think we should do this. I'm going to go, talk to Amanda, or I'm going to go talk to Bill Smith, and I'm going to just go grab these things. I'm going to set up a meeting, and I'll see you on Tuesday. It's not that it couldn't do that. I'm still tiptoeing onto the icy lake here. I want to make sure it's solid footing first, and I am fully responsible for anything that it does. So I want to be respectful, to our team members, and not just have it go hog wild and schedule 100 meetings to try to get answers to its questions, for example.
Yeah, that would be a disaster for sure. When we're talking about workflow design and where the agents help and hurt, what are some practical examples of where this works and where it creates friction? And so where do the agents help the most, and if they're not governed, where do they create some friction?
I think where agents have helped me the most, and this might be a personal style thing. I am a detailed person, and I only because some people have fear of missing out. I have fear of missing details. I want to make as much of an informed decision as I can, and this has been actually a delight for me because in our role we have to make timely, quick decisions, and it's always the best decision you can make with the information at the time. But now I can juggle so much more information and integration and downstream impact when I really just take 20, 30 minutes getting transcripts of meetings I couldn't attend, for example, researching articles I wouldn't have had time in the past on market trends or policy changes and things of that nature, bringing that together and then making a bit more of an informed decision. And the best part is I've learned to say, well, here's my thinking given what you put together in this synopsis. I think we should do A, B, C, D. Give me an ASCII flow of what that would be, which is great. I'm a picture guy, right? And it'll generate step A would happen, step B would happen in your process flow. But then I always close every statement with, but challenge me on my thinking here, because maybe I'm missing something I didn't see. And yeah, 1 out of 3 times it'd say, okay, understand where you're going, but you didn't know that I have the ability as an agent to do X, Y, Z. Would you rather I just shortcut that and not bypass governance or anything, but it would find a faster way to solve the problem, maybe grabbing information from ancillary systems that I didn't even know we could interface to. So now I use that as a technological thing, but could also do it for information gathering or human interactions. It would recommend, based off what it's noticed about roles and stuff, it might say, well, you have XYZ instructor doing this. Had you considered also having to be an internal trainer for the consultants or things like that? So it's neat that it helps with ideation. It's neat that I have it challenge my thinking. And then it's neat that it can offer an updated workflow and identify where it could do automations.
What do you see the friction?
Thank you. Honestly, I think the friction is investing the time to learn how to work with the agent and building the agents through the flow. Having been a consultant for a long time, I think I might take for granted the fact that I just think in systems all the time. Inputs, tools, technologies, and outputs, which feeds the next input, right? Like a locomotive, you've got all these cars, and sometimes they're in serial and sometimes they're in parallel, and I've learned to think that way. And so my conversations with AI as we architect these, I tend to understand where it's coming from and kind of leading the witness, if you will, towards possible designs I know have been successful in the past. Now, that doesn't mean, again, as I just said, that it may offer ways of thinking I hadn't considered. So it's very important that I end every prompt with, but what am I missing, or what else have I not considered? Because I've had a few pretty clever ones change the way we do SOPs. But I think the friction is going to be for us as humans. How do we make it a gentle, helpful, not intimidating partner or tool in defining our day-to-day SOPs? How do we remember to keep that sense of responsibility? Because hypothetically, if I had a quote desk job, I'm making this up, I'm not an accountant, I don't know, but if my job as an accountant is journal entries and processing expenses and seasonalities and making sure that I'm complying to what the comptroller needs. And then I've got my month ends and my year ends and all of those things. On the surface, I might be able to just create my little bot buddy, come in at 8 a.m., pour a cup of coffee and say, go with processing XYZ daily task. And then we get away from critical thinking or, injecting the human sort of governance or boundaries around why we need those accounts, proper treatment, ethics, optimizations due to culture, and just the nuances that working at a company affords you as a professional that you couldn't automate. I'm not saying that you still wouldn't inject yourself, but I could see us thinking that this is some put your feet up and hit the button and you're done for the day. I think that the teaching, back to friction, is dealing with perception, dealing with fear, thinking that this is replace the humans thing. It really, really isn't any more than, the invention of the automobile. All it's doing is giving us the ability to travel farther, safer, faster, metaphorically speaking. But we got to be careful about, we can't just get in the cockpit and hit go and expect that everything's just going to be fixed. And again, the friction it's for us. It's gently bringing us into that. It's happening. There's nothing, this is like the car's been invented. So learn driving safety, learn how your vehicle works, take driving lessons. You got to get in the car, but you can't let go of the steering wheel. You can't just hit autopilot. You have to understand how it works, why you want to go where you want to drive. I think that's the friction, believe it or not.
Yeah, and we had a meeting last week, a leadership meeting, where we discussed this next question or topic of documenting the rules and setting forth rules of this for our corporation. These are the rules when we use AI, so that everyone's on the same page. So can you speak a little bit to that? Maybe not specific details, but just why that's important.
Yeah, I think the rules are important. I tend to collaborate with our leaders so I understand the culture and the team members and state of where we are in regards to adoption, comfort. Now, comfort doesn't mean take it easy. Comfort means what's the edge of challenging people before they bend and they don't break, and they'll stay on the journey and stay invested in it. But I think involving teams and then the team leads and forming ground rules, an understanding of AI ethics, proper use of the tools, just takes patience, and it's worth the investment. So those conversations, certainly we have run books. Heck, I write them. I don't go back and read them. I have AI say, what does the run book say? What does our policy say? I don't have the time like I used to go back and do a Google search or a ClickUp search or what have you. So it is nice to have that at my fingertips. And I do still think each of us has the responsibility, and there is an expectation. Everyone understands, adheres to those, but they're also dynamic, right? The conversation allows us to explore, is that really a hard boundary? Do we need to look at some flexibility there? Is there a case by case, and what does that mean? And so I don't want to call it handholding because it's not what it is. There's a lot of human collaboration right now around what works. I'll give you a simple example. Data privacy. One of our team members, my top practice lead for consulting, sent me a note yesterday. He's like, hey, I've almost got this massive report ready to go for our client, and I'd like to get it out the door. And he sends me a screenshot. He's like, can you give me admin access? And I look at the screenshot, and it's ChatGPT asking, can I have domain access so that I can get your meeting notes, your Teams posts and all of that. Now, functionally, I understand what he was doing. He was trying to capture the client meeting transcripts and a few other things so he could finish up compiling, their next steps for that deliverable. But the old technologist in me, the enterprise architect in me, recognizes the security consideration there. Do I really want to grant a non-secure ChatGPT access to my entire domain? And that takes a certain amount of human awareness. Like, I need to study that. I need to talk to my IT security folks and understand you don't need a carte blanche God rights to our system to accomplish the same thing that he was trying to architect. So those conversations are where we invest a lot of time. right now it's kind of a trade-off a little bit, but the time we get back in using these agents and using AI to generate artifacts and continue these conversations has provided an acceleration. And we use that time for learning and alignment and ethics to make sure that we're doing it right and gradually as we build these runbooks. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah. And I think it speaks to too. That's what I was thinking is like it does take some time, but it's a learning process. And so for all of us, we're gaining the opportunity to learn these tools. And if we don't learn, then we're going to be behind. So that's the kind of trade-off that we're kind of in there. When we talk about what leaders must unlearn in this situation, what habits break down and what should executives stop doing in these situations that versus what you used to do?
What should we stop doing as executives or have the team stop doing? Would you mind kind of reframing that for me?
Well, for instance, one of the things that we've talked about a lot is like you don't need to know every single thing that's going on. And so in an instance like that, as the executive, how do you deploy or give the autonomy to your team to use these agents to assist in that, if that makes better sense?
It does make better sense. Now, it's still the beginning of that. I think Q1 will see the build and use of agents at team member levels to start to proliferate. Right now, it's just a handful of us in the leadership that are architecting where, how we'll use these agents and have agent builds. So we're still easily, 3-4 weeks away from sort of that pilot program being in full swing. And then probably end of Q1, we start having the team members themselves engage in that. Many of them will be centrally controlled, so they'll probably end up being on a portal of some kind, and there will be orientation and training and feedback and a lot of high touch human work to make sure that we're using this properly and effectively, and that team members can share feedback and concerns. We are fortunate that Corbeau is a very tight culture, and what I mean by that is, ethics, transparency is paramount. We have an organization in our SOPs where if you do RACI, right, responsible, accountable, consultative, informed, the responsible person of any given SOP or process or task, certainly he or she is the go-to person. But there's always an understudy. Always, always, always an understudy. In fact, we look for it. Like, hey, who wants to learn XYZ process with me? So that their career capabilities are always developing. We have people that, maybe they want to be exposed to what it's like to do a little bit of marketing because they've been in project delivery consulting for so long. So we have an opportunity to have what we call a big R, right? That's the owner of the task, and a little R, which is the understudy. So that person could, if the big R stepped aside, could take over that task. I share that cultural note to say, because of that sort of natural inclination towards a buddy system, if you will, that makes the dissemination of the use of these tools much more palatable, right? You can very openly say, hey, Ben, what'd you get for number one, right? Joking, right? Study off your buddy for tests. We actually want that. I want everybody talking. I want everybody raising. I was like, can we do that? Is that legal? Is that ethical? Should the bot be doing that? Oh man, that bot is just gone totally haywire. Like, we need to take a look at that. Like, I need people seeing this stuff. Do they have to necessarily, be policed gates? And am I talking, control freak? No, that defeats the purpose. But right now, honestly, I'm not looking to replace employees. I'm looking to augment them, right? Put the S on their chest and hang a cape over their shoulders, all of you. Because I need those people to be the ethical, tight-knit culture, service oriented leaders for our customers. The tools behind the scenes, they're going to be great. They're going to be part of what we expect of our employees. Building ethics, awareness, double checking, triple checking, critical thinking, all of that. And frankly, it's only going to strengthen their ability to be consultants and teachers for our students and our clients, because they're critically thinking now about these agentic flow designs, these control points, these automations. Are they effective? Are they ethical? Are they overwhelming? That doesn't mean we don't challenge ourselves. It doesn't mean we don't keep learning. But I think we're poised to be kind of a front runner in the implementation of these agents. And once we figure it out, we will very, very happily, share it with our project management communities, with our clients, etc. But think of us as trailblazers. We're excited, to bring this to the world in 2026.
Sure. I think we touched on this quite a bit, but let's just cover this just to make sure we didn't miss anything. What new skills do managers need to effectively lead hybrid human AI teams?
New skills? New skills. So this is strange. I'm going to say it from my perspective, and this probably isn't the case for many leaders. Believe it or not, it's really about the people again. I know someone probably was hoping for some tech answer like, oh, you need a master agent orchestrator and you need to double your IT security team and capability, and you need an ethics, AI ethics bot to watch the bots that are, the agents that are running these jobs. And all that could be true. But as an executive, I think what we just talked about with the human having accountability, teaching, and creating a culture of delegation and understudies, and everybody having the right to speak up when they have questions, when they're stuck, or more importantly, they see some aberrant behavior in this technology, or they have concerns about this technology, and then investing the time to architect around those concerns with those team members. Again, we are in a position, at least in 2026, where I'm not looking to replace a bunch of humans and have 5x, agentic systems to replace 5 humans. Not yet. What I want is crawl, walk, run with our team members such that they become self-empowered to, in their own way, be critical thinker architects of these agents for their role in the organization. And they scale them as individuals. So when you ask, what are the skills we need to learn? For me, believe it or not, it's trust and delegation in our folks. It's letting go of control and empowering them to start to architect their own solutions, share it with others, get it in a knowledge base, make it SOPs, teaching folks to look out for each other. Everyone has ownership of and responsibility for what these AI tools are doing. Yeah, I think, believe it or not, I think the skill that leaders need to do is build a culture of self-empowerment and critical thinking. So it's going to take transparency. It's culture change. It's not about the tech. It's not, I click the button and the employees I have know how to do it, and now we're doing 10x. Or I can let go of half of my accounting department because everything's automated. I just don't see that necessarily. And so how do we learn to maximize the folks we've got? And it's going to be uncomfortable because these folks are going to have to talk more. They're going to have to level set more. They're going to have to go through workshops and critical thinking and debate things with each other. And they're going to have to do so respectfully and effectively because the agents are coming. It's kind of like, I don't know, I might imagine when my parents, they buy a car, right? An agent is the car, and many debates ensued, right? What dad wanted was the sports car, and what mom wanted was the minivan, and go. So I can see having the ability to moderate, mediate, and empower those conversations in a productive and professional way would pay dividends.
Yeah, and I love that you said that too, because I think anytime as leaders, as executives, the hardest thing to do is let go of control and empower people. But when we do that and we have really good people, those people can become better than we are. And then that's the ultimate goal, right? And so if they're using these agents to be better and to do better, and like you talk about, be faster and more productive, then that really is the whole point, as long as we do it well. All right, so let's go to the next little area of topic. Responsible adoption, and a piece of advice that you would have for people. So practical guidance for leaders that are considering this, that haven't moved into this space yet. What would be the advice that you would give?
Yeah, this is from one executive to another. And to be fair, we're a small going on medium company. I would make the time, if I was a director, a vice president, or even a C-level, find a study buddy, or someone in the company, even if it's 1 hour a month, whatever it is, to sit down and show you these agent tools, this build out. Maybe it's a Cloud Code terminal. Maybe it's automations in Power Automate with Copilot. With whatever the mechanics are, don't necessarily matter. But until you see, it's almost like if you're a customer and you special order your own car. While this seems awkward, I'm asking you to visit the car assembly factory. Now, you don't need to understand how to assemble the car. That's not the point. But this is very different than the old days, right? Where, they did one car by hand in the 20s, right? It's the Model T, the assembly line exists now. And you've got to understand, just like you would in your business, whether it's manufacturing or it's logistics or pharma, you've got to understand the machine. This is a new assembly line. This is a new floor. This is a new warehouse. You've got to take a look at, walk the floor with an employee or a team member or a coach and understand how these agents are made, even if you know nothing about computers. Ask questions about, well, how can I trust that it's doing X, Y, Z? Wait, you're letting it see my financial information? Right. What does that mean? Who can see that? I would say it's uncomfortable and it's weird because I get it. If you've been a CEO or an exec for a long time, you know your industry, you crushed your business. It would pay dividends if you could just do a study buddy session on what's going on with the agents that you're building, just to learn. I wouldn't necessarily say, every leader's different. I wouldn't necessarily meddle per se, but if I could understand what it means for my business, if I could ask questions about what is feasible today, well, we can do that. I'll prioritize that project, right? And come back to your leaders for the strategy session for the year. It could literally change your perspective of where you invest in R&D and things of that nature. So food for thought, I actually think, believe it or not, it would be a quote site visit of what's going on with your AI solutions. And it doesn't matter if you're small, medium, large, global. As an executive, just take a look at the manufacturing floor of your AI stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. We had one of our team members last week reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'm using this and I want to show it to you. Will you, can we jump on and learn it?" And it was really valuable to me to be able to see her utilize it and me not be the one driving, but be able to kind of watch and go, "Oh, I could do that. That's something that I can work with." Whereas before, like I probably wouldn't have even considered it because it just seems so lofty. So I think that's a really good advice. So while we wrap up, can you tell us a little bit about what Corbeau Tech is doing with their AI deployment and the interesting things that you created and that you have going on?
Oh, well, I don't want to give away too much of the secret sauce yet, but I will say, we are a project success navigation firm by definition. Mm-hmm. And that comes from the concept of projects, unfortunately, have a lot of waste. And many projects have failed to meet their primary objectives. I think any one of us could think of anything from a construction project near our house that said it was going to end in February and it didn't end until September, right? Blocking the roads to school and to work, all the way to stuff, big enterprise transformations, IT transformations, construction projects. We probably all aware of what it feels like when we have delays, overruns, another $3 million extension for another 6 months, whatever that might be. So we've been in project management since the beginning of my career. Some colleagues and I finally said, how do we put together a think tank to address the project failure, the waste, the inefficiencies? And we devised this concept of project success navigation. Ironically, kind of metaphorically, could be represented by like a Waze or a Google Maps, where you want to get from A to B, and it tells you when there's traffic, it tells you when there's police and there's potholes and all of that, and it'll recommend the frontage road or alternative routes. That's quite literally what project success navigation is on these multi-million-dollar complex projects, navigating your way through complex integrations, multiple jurisdictions, supply chain issues before they happen, and all of these things. And we had turned that into a technology called Crow's Nest. Well, the reason why this agentic thing matters is now our operations are efficient, lean, and mean. We can make faster decisions, right? Before, the delay of decision was as costly as making the wrong decision sometimes, much later, or even making the right decision later, because you didn't act on it as quickly as you could have, and you didn't have as much information at the time. The game has changed. I can now process so much more about a scenario that I couldn't before, right? What's going on the loading dock? What's going on with staffing and capabilities? Did we ever hire that, that senior developer? Like, I will have understanding of my ecosystem, so my project managers and my team members can make more timely decisions. Steering committees can make more timely decisions, and sponsors and executives understand what's going on in their portfolio. And they're going to see more and more status green on their priority strategic projects, because we are empowering more timely and powerful decision making. And all of that can happen now because the agentic AI is baked into the project success navigation solution. So that's the big one. I would say internally, we've got internal SOP tools and whatnot, collaboration tools and whatnot that just make people more effective. And actually, the fun stuff I'm more excited about is bringing these concepts to project managers, project practitioners, even professionals like directors and project sponsors out in the world. Many of them may be members of PMI.org, Project Management Institute, purveying these tips and tricks and these ways of working, this transition to the new age of being a project success practitioner. And again, that doesn't mean you're a PM. You could be an architect, you could be a developer, you could be an executive. But if you're in a project, if you've helped to run a project, if you've contributed to project and removed blockers, the Academy is helping those folks, project participants, learn to be practitioners, to take responsibility, to leverage these tools to accelerate decision making and achieve success more frequently. So that's the fun stuff that we're going to be using it for. We're even updating our LMS so that the learning experience is tailored towards actually using the techniques you're going to learn, right? Oh, AI is a study buddy, for example. So excited about that. We've got a huge mission. Corbeau exists entirely to fight the battle against project failure. So we are a project success company. And that doesn't mean we have to be the ones to do it. We just want to get the learning out there, get the behavior opportunities out there, and let people just become project success practitioners. And let's get that failure rate down from the high 60s or 50% down to even 40%. How many millions of dollars a year would that save? How many hours and weeks and months would that save? How many key projects could finish more quickly? Building hospitals or bridges, medical innovations, emergency triage solutions when there's hurricanes. So better, faster, smarter, safer projects is the mission. It's global, it's relentless, and I'm excited to be alive at this time because, man, these agents have changed the game so that creative, innovative, mission-driven projects can be realized on time